Dear soul on the path, welcome to Angelic Spirituality, the channel where the light of the soul meets the wisdom of the spirit. Today, we'll guide you on a journey between the veils of the visible and the invisible to discover who incarnate angels really are, and how to recognize them in our everyday lives. Prepare to open your heart, and perhaps, to remember something your soul has always known. Have you ever felt that some people are different? Not strange, not superior, but deeply different, as if their inner light were too strong for the world we live in. As if they carried something within that doesn't fully belong to this earth. Today we're talking about incarnate angels. No, it's not a joke, and it's not just a poetic way to describe kind or sensitive people. It's something much deeper, and, surprisingly, more common than you'd think. I've met some on social media, others in everyday life. Often, they don't know each other, and many guard their privacy closely. But there's an invisible thread connecting them all. These beings are not always aware of their nature. Contrary to what you might think, incarnate angels don't go around declaring what they are. They're discreet, almost invisible. And yet, when you're near one, something shifts. The heart opens, the mind calms, the soul remembers itself. Angels don't only appear with wings and glowing auras. In dreams or moments of deep vulnerability, they may appear in the most familiar forms. A friend, a relative, a doctor, a nurse, a passerby, or even a pet. They might look like an ordinary person or someone we've long lost. Sometimes they even appear as traditional winged angels, if that's what we need to feel safe or to silence our ego. But behind that temporary form is a very ancient essence. Some look young but carry the memory of centuries or millennia. Others originate from before this universe began. Vast beings, immense, able to hold a galaxy within themselves, and yet choose to appear as children or humble people. They are completely free souls, deeply connected to the whole. To separate them from spirit or consciousness is just a mental game. In truth, consciousness is one. Indivisible. It is what we are, beyond names and definitions. Every being that holds awareness is a soul. Without awareness, only inert matter remains. Incarnate angels, in human form, carry out their divine mission with full consciousness. They don't always need to wake up. But in some cases, especially among the younger generations, they may be born without memory of who they are. These are the so-called sleeping angels. Their light is powerful, but hard to manage. They live in a world that teaches love for money over people, appearances over truth. In such a world, it's easy to feel lost. Imagine a soul used to universal love, inner beauty, and divine communion, thrown into a world that glorifies competition, possession, and ego. The result is confusion, disorientation, but also a deep desire to bring light, to heal, to remember. Many of them shine naturally, without even realizing it. But the more light they emit, the more shadow they seem to attract. It's almost inevitable, as if a shadow, sensing that light, feels threatened. It draws near, either to try and extinguish it, or perhaps secretly, to be transformed by it. I've seen incarnate angels face darkness with a smile. Not an innocent smile, but a deep smile, almost terrible in its intensity. A smile that knows, that remembers, that welcomes even what is frightening. Sometimes, these beings have a very specific mission, to hold someone else's shadow. To live alongside difficult, aggressive, or disconnected people, to help them, to stabilize them, to keep them from falling completely. It's an incredibly hard mission, often filled with suffering. Sometimes people try to tell them, let go. It's not your job to save everyone. But they don't listen, they stay, they endure, and if they do leave, it's sudden and dramatic, leaving behind deep shock. Not because they're unstable, but because when their light is too repressed, it explodes. Like a star that can no longer contain itself. These episodes, these breaking points, are not random. They're tests, signs, opportunities to return to themselves, to shed old conditioning, and to shine again, without fear. Because an incarnate angel, while trapped in the limits of their environment, cannot express their true nature. Only when they rise above the human plane, remembering their divine essence, does the shadow begin to retreat. Just as every soul, once freed from masks, remembers who it truly is. And then everything changes. Pain gives way to clarity. Struggle becomes strength. Incarnate angels are not better than others. They are simply more aware, more connected. They carry a more vivid fragment of the Absolute. And even as they walk among us, they remain anchored to the divine realm from which they came. But there is another side to this. Some entities have chosen darkness. Not to explore duality, but to rebel against their true nature. They are the fallen angels. Some of them incarnate, just like the angels of light, but with different, destructive, dominant intentions. We often find them in places of power, where inhuman decisions are made, where the weak are crushed, where suffering is spread without remorse. We've seen them, and continue to see them, in action. Just think of those who order bombings of innocent civilians, even blocking humanitarian aid. Like in the wars shaking the world. These beings, sometimes called soulless, actually still have a core of consciousness. But it is buried, drowned in darkness. They've identified so fully with the shadow that they've forgotten their divine origin. That's why they seem unreachable. That's why they seem lost. But even they will eventually be reclaimed by their consciousness. No one is truly lost. The whole calls every part of itself back. It may take entire lifetimes, perhaps entire cosmic eras, but they too will return to the light. Because nothing is ever lost in the great design of creation. So, what can we do? We who may not be angels, but feel the call of the light. We can learn from them. We can recognize the signs. We can tend our soul like a garden. We can stop looking outside for what can only be found within. And above all, we can learn to recognize the incarnate angels who cross our path. They won't always speak about spirituality. They won't always use kind words. Sometimes they'll be blunt, provocative, even uncomfortable. But they carry an energy that transforms, that awakens, that heals. Look around. Maybe one is beside you. Maybe you've already been touched by them more than once, without even realizing it. And maybe, deep down, you carry a spark of that light too. If something deep inside you resonated with these words, if you recognized the light of an ancient memory in your own steps, then maybe you, too, carry an angelic spark within. Or maybe you've already been touched by one of these extraordinary souls. Continue your journey with awareness and love. Subscribe to Angelic Spirituality, and turn on the bell to receive more messages of light, wisdom, and awakening. Thank you for being with us. See you soon, Radiant Soul.